you both have been together for 35 years. That's a very long association. So just take us through, how did it start, where it started, and where are we now with this?
First.
Go ahead, Kris.
First off, we were friends before we became business partners. Both of us at University of Waterloo, we were in a co-op, worked together, and we decided fairly early, it was like second year of engineering, that we wanted to be self-employed. The idea of entrepreneurship was very new at that time. No one actually used the word, so self-employed was the word. First is that our long-term vision of where we want to be has been constant since '82, which was to build a great company, providing great service, adding clinical value, or adding value to customers, and not necessarily trying to look for money, but trying to create a big kind of global company that'll have presence and add value overall. Second is our lifestyles are very similar. Like we live low-key lifestyle, we don't have a lot of need for money, and our economic interests have always been tied together. So there's no debate of what's going on. So I think having long-term vision, having kind of similar lifestyles and similar values as immigrants, I think propelled that into it, and it's been good for so many years. We'll see if he kills me or I kill him in the next 5 years. If not, we'll keep going. We're in business together now. We have a new venture that we spun off from Boston, and we're growing that out, and we'll see where that takes us to.
Let's hear the other side now.
Now, what really happened? Okay. No. So Kris and I were at University of Waterloo together in electrical engineering, but we didn't actually meet in the first year. What happened was it's a co-op program. So after the first year, we went on our first co-op program, and we were both at the Toronto Board of Education, just not too far from here, almost in walking distance. Why we never met in that first year is because, and this will help explain a lot of stuff, Kris was always at the front of the class, and I was always at the back of the class. All that to say that it started off that we were complementary. Any great partnership works that you bring certain different things to the table. So Kris brought the brains and the work ethic, and I brought all the rest.
So I should tell my teenager son who sits at the back, start looking who's sitting in the front street. It's not only the notes, maybe there is a potential business partnership coming there.
That's right. Pick out someone that's very studious, smart, and working hard.
Perfect. I'll start doing it. Now, I have to tell everybody this. So I have a question. There is no relationship it's always the same, and you guys have gone through a lot. What we would like to know, was there ever a moment when you are building a business, it comes with so much stresses, there is so much you're scaling it up. Was there a moment when you said, you know what, let's call it quit. It's not gonna work. And also, because it's a good story, so let me pivot the question a bit. Yeah. What was there in this relationship, or when building the business, there was a moment you'll say, it's worth it, let's stick to it, and that perseverance which has got you where you are?
Well, I don't know what Frank will say, but I would say, over the years, we never actually had a moment where we say, let's quit and go back and get a job. I think it's always been, okay, we're here now, this is working and this isn't, how do we pivot to new space, or where can there be opportunities that we could find? It's kind of like the story of a goalie who's blocking the big goal, and where is the pockets of opportunities that we could look at. So I think we had a lot of disagreements on, okay, where the opportunities are, how we should pursue them. But it wasn't a question of, okay, let's pack up. It was always a question of how do we pivot, and where can we pivot, where can there be space for opportunities that could be created, and go into that. That's not to say you have a lot of setbacks where you get back to ground zero, and you say, how do we pick ourselves up and go from here, or the cash is running out, all this kind of typical entrepreneurs stuff that happens to all of us over years. So we had a lot of ups and downs. And we disagreed a lot on what the strategy should be going forward, but long-term vision was always intact. So within that, he could work, kind of come to that conclusion on how we should pivot and go forward. Or do we have a time when you want to quit, or?
No, in fact, I had the opposite. I had saved up enough money. Well, first of all, we graduated in '86. I toured around Europe till '87. I worked for 2 years. And in the first year I was working, I wasn't saving any money. And Kris said, Frank, you're not saving any money, you should save money. And I said, yeah, but Kris, I had this plan. My plan is to be a rich guy. And Kris said, yeah, but you should have a backup plan. So I said, yeah, he was right. So what I did is I went to HR and I said, take off this much money right off my paycheck. And what I learned, first of all, is that, and I took a lot off. I took 20% right off the top, not 20% after tax, but before tax, because I hadn't done the math. And for a couple weeks it hurt, and then I just readjusted my life. Now that was important, because when we went to start the business, we weren't making any money, zero. And I had that savings. But at the same time, I got married, and I was living in Montreal, Kris is in Toronto, and back then in Montreal, when you wanted to find an apartment, you just walk into any building, anywhere, and say, are you gonna give me 3 months or 4 months free rent? That's how easy it was to get a place. But I couldn't afford an apartment. I got married, and I had to live with my mom and dad. My dad said to me, hey Frank, you know, you just got married, you should go get your own place. I said, I can, but if I do, this money that I put aside will run out faster. And I knew that I had 2 years if I didn't make a penny. So in the back of my head, it was never about quitting. It was like every dollar I made, I could go another month, another 2 months. And I had in my head too, back then you could go and work in the Middle East and in Dubai, or particularly Saudi Arabia if you're an engineer, make a lot of money, double your salary, pay no taxes. So even then I thought, worst case, if I fail completely, I'll go to Saudi Arabia, work a couple of years, come back with more money, and try again. I never, ever thought I was going to go work for someone. That never crossed my mind. If I failed, I was just going to recapitalize and go right back at it. So we call that, we burnt the boats. I was going on one journey alone. And I had been starting businesses even when I was in high school, but I'd done a mistake. I'd started a business with my best friend, who was one of our very good friends, and it was hell. It was just terrible. I loved the guy, I never worked with the guy. But because of that, when I saw that Kris and I were highly complementary, that we got along, we were respectful of each other's skill sets, I could see that we would make great partnership. So it wasn't by happenstance that we have this partnership. It's something that I reflected on and knew where I was going. And we, like I mentioned, we were highly complementary. As they say, if there's two of you and you agree on everything, then one of you is not needed. That's the bottom line. So you don't want to get a partner that just agrees with everything you say, because then someone's not adding value.
No, thank you so much. So one lesson for everybody to learn. I'm so glad you didn't go to Saudi. But there is a lesson. All those who find Toronto absolutely unaffordable, it will become affordable. Just become an entrepreneur. Am I right? You will have to try. Yes. I know I hear all this time, all the startup founders really struggling. I have another question. Having an innovative idea is one thing. Actually taking it to turn into a large business and enterprise and then leading to a headline. We have heard this number, 1.75 billion couple of times now, and turning into a great deal. How did that happen? Tell us some milestone nuances where you felt, no, this idea is good, we can work on it, and let's build on it.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a long story. So first, it wasn't a single idea. Actually, it was our fourth business over 35 years that kind of led to that. So our first kind of go at it when we first left school was we were in a distribution business of buying and selling devices. Actually, Frank's mom had started the company as a very small entity, importing from one particular customer. And then we kind of got into that and started buying other medical devices and established ourselves. So that was in 89 timeframe. Then that, as a distributor, you're buying from a company and you're selling in Canada, that business goes up and down because the company you're selling for may not need you, or the technology may get outdated, or in our industry, the company gets bought if they're good. And Canada's the first place where the Americans can come up and sell and they don't need you anymore. So we lived that life up and down for almost a decade. Then we realized this not a good way to live. In order to have a kind of long sustaining business, we need to have our own products. So we kind of got into R&D 98 timeframe and launched our first product in 2001 from a small product and a bigger product in 2002. And that was a time of a major growth. So you could say that was a second inflection point. One was quitting our job. Second one was going from a distribution to manufacturing operation. And that was in a spinal interventional pain business. And we grew that out quite a bit. And to Frank's story about kind of scraping by, we scraped by with sales, put the money back in, did more R&D, more manufacturing, got some more money, distributed that. So we lived really, really low while we could fund the business in a kind of snowball effect. And we did that business till 2009. We sold that to Kimberly-Clark. And we morphed again into a cardiology business and launched first set of products in 2011. That's what led to the Boston deal. So we had a few exits before that, but this was the big one, of course. But it's been 4 major pivots and many other pivots in the middle that kind of led to that, and a bunch of failures in the middle. But then these cycles that kind of led to that. So, but one thing that's been constant throughout all these businesses, which has really been adding clinical value. So we're in medical device business, and we're not in business of selling something for cheaper. We're in business of selling something for more money and more technology. And if you can add more clinical value to physicians, healthcare system, patients, then we win. So that formula has been kind of constant throughout, kind of led to kind of having products that got adopted and sold, and kind of a lot of luck came our way in the middle as well. So it's been kind of many things kind of added up to that. You can add flavor to that.
Yeah, we had ups and downs. We had challenges. So one of the first products that my mother started distributing was for treating aneurysms in the brain. And before this came out of France, and the genesis of the company, some French doctor moved from France to Quebec, and they needed someone to buy this catheter, resell it to them. And before that, if you had an aneurysm in the brain, the doctor would say, put your life in order. Because it's not like your heart, we can cut and go in. They can't cut and get into your brain. They can't move it around. Now they go in through catheters and they plug those holes. But this was the beginning of that. Now the French company was very difficult. And then my mom said to Kris and I, you guys are engineers, go develop this catheter yourselves. We don't need this guy. So I went and talked to the doctor that had moved, and he said, Frank, this is a peanut business. There's 5 of us by now, he was the first guy in all the Americas. There's 5 of us now. Why would you get into this? So I went back to this and Mom, listen, it's peanut business. We're not doing that. Well, a company in Silicon Valley thought, this is a pretty good idea. They started doing it. And within about 6 or 7 years, they sold to Boston Scientific for the tidy sum back then of $1.2 billion. Okay, so there's a couple lessons there. Doctors are brilliant, and I know your husband's a doctor, and I have all respect for him. My sister's a doctor, but they're not business people. So we work with doctors very closely when it comes to developing, but not so much when it comes to deciding on the business. That's the first lesson. Second lesson, you're all going to appreciate this. Listen to your moms, okay? Go home and listen to your moms. So what happened when this latest business that we sold, and Kris went and saw a doctor here at Toronto Sick Kids, and what did the doctor say as we were developing it? What did he ask? He said,
it's a very small business.
He said, why are you doing this? He said, we don't need this. That same business was what we sold for that big money to Boston Scientific. So one thing you can see is we learned our lesson. We learned who to listen to for what way and that. But we were told the exact same thing. Why are you guys doing this? I'll help you do it. I see you want to do it. It's great. But there's very little application for this. I said, okay, don't worry about it. Thank you. But we pushed through it. So those are some lessons we've had.
No, that's amazing. I think so for all the entrepreneurs in the room. Don't ask your competitor, because they're definitely going to say your market is small. Don't ask the experts who don't have a business sense whether this business is right. So I think so you ask the right people, but definitely ask your mom. That's a key lesson here. Am I right? Great.
What your mom says.
Yes. I'll tell my son today this thing.
Good luck on that one.
Sure. Because right now we are all wrong for them. I actually have a question here, and I'm sure many people will be thinking about it, because I'm not sure many of us have experience of ever structuring or developing a strategy for $1 billion deal. It's a big number with a big B. So can you just take us how it started, what were the strategies, where the process started, what you had to go through to get that to end where it was a $1.75 billion deal?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the deal itself, how it came about. So so we were like in the cardiology business, and our business was growing quite at very rapid rates. So we're growing roughly 35% a year, and so mathematically doubling every 2.25 years. So it was a very hectic time, and we're self-funded, so we had to generate our own capital. And as most of you guys know, faster you grow, more capital is needed. So we're putting a lot of capital back in, just inventory, working capital, staff, and all that kind of stuff. So we're growing quite nicely. Our business is very strong. And we were on map for a lot of medical device companies in the US, especially the cardiology companies, which is about half a dozen. So they would come speak to us now and then, have dinners, or we meet them at conferences. But we always said we weren't ready. We were happy doing our business was going strong. We didn't need cash. So they were on the sidelines, and we're growing, we're going about our business. Then COVID happens. So first of all, it happens in March 2020. Everything shuts down. Then by September, October of 2020, I think the world realized that healthcare stocks are worth a lot, and the valuation for all the healthcare businesses went up like a rocket from October 20 on. And that's when we decided, in conjunction with some bankers, that this may be the right time to dispose of our product. And the other factor that was very heavily into it was that we were essentially a single product company at that time, because our cardiology business was growing so strong. And we're a technology company, even though we make physical devices, we're in technology business, and we can be outdone by someone. It could be another product, another technology that comes that takes us out. So here we got a pile of money that could be had, and is this the right time? So with help of our board, we decided, okay, this is the right time. But we weren't ready for sales, so we didn't have any kind of what they call quality earnings done. We didn't have a company separated. So a lot of cleanup work had to be done quite readily. We were audited by a small auditor, which was already a problem. They needed statements from a big audit firm. So with our small team of like half a dozen people, we went to work of cleaning our financials up, getting quality earnings ready, getting re-audited done, and separating the company from business we wanted to sell and keeping everything we did not want to sell. The reason being is that our cardiology business was very strong and very attractive to a lot of people, but a lot of other stuff was not. And if we put it all together, it would have diluted the message, and we would have gotten less than just selling the cardiology alone. So we went to work of doing that. Then we eventually hired a banker in May 21. And because our business was strong and we had existing relationship with a number of these folks, they could understand our business very fast. And between May and October, after kind of bidding process of first round and second round, we came to conclusion that Boston was the highest bidder and best partner for our company, our staff. And then we announced the deal in October 21, and then took 6 months to go through regulatory process to close it. But I got to tell you, it was a very, very hectic time because you're running the business. And when folks that have gone through this process, you'll know that all the companies that are looking at you or watching you, monthly sales, so you cannot have any dip. Okay, you can't have any issues that come up. So you got to keep growing at the trajectory you were at while you go through the process. So that was a kind of very hectic time. But we kind of persevered through that, and things worked out. But a lot of the groundwork was laid prior to that, knowing the people and having a strong business that had good financials and good strategic value came out. And in hindsight, was the right partner with Boston Scientific and the right process. And who knows what the valuation could have been higher or lower, but the deal overall is very, very attractive in that way. And having a strong internal team helped, and having strong partners, Pricewaterhouse and our law firm, were instrumental in kind of coming together and pulling the packages together to make all of that happen. What do you remember from the deal?
So what happens, what our technology is we make a hole in your heart. Under controlled systems, there are times when the physician needs to make a hole in your heart to go from this side of your heart to the left, from the right to the left, to do some work in there. And we had a great business, and it was growing. However, we had not been able to diversify enough, so we were exposed. What if someone came out with something better? And everybody was chasing us because they could see the market. Well, guess who came out with something better? We did. We came out with a better product that we knew was going to kill our own business. So that's something for all of you to learn. Even if you're doing great, be thinking what can take you out. We were going to take ourselves out. And we launched in the middle of COVID. And keep in mind, you're making a hole in someone's heart. So I thought, okay, it's going to be very slow uptake because, we can't get our salespeople in there. We can't get our clinical people in there to train the doctors.
You're talking about second generation product.
Yeah, the VersaCross. We couldn't get our second generation product in there to teach them, okay, we know you know how to use our first generation, but look how better our second generation is. What happened, though, is it started taking off, even in the middle of COVID. We were really surprised. And these big companies, they love growth. They love growth. And we were leaving everybody behind that was trying to catch up to our version 1. Forget about them. We're already on to the way better system, version 2. So it was the right time. In life, everything is about timing. It was the right time for us to sell. And I said, Kris and I said, okay, we're gonna go here. And this is a testament to also how people think. And you can probably see it. Kris is more Cartesian, I'm more emotional. And everybody thought, oh, Frank's gonna get real emotional about the company, and Kris is gonna be very business-like. And it was kind of the other way around. Kris got pretty emotional about it. I was more business-like. Why? Because we still have Baylis Medical. We just put it in another form. I love owning a business. I just love going to work. I love the fact that we develop medical products. I'm proud of what I do, and that's what I think everybody in the room should be proud of what they do. But we help people. We make their lives better. We work in all fields, and we come up with ideas that we go and teach doctors how to do new things. It's something I'm proud of. And so the fact that we were keeping going, it was something wonderful. So I didn't have the emotional impact as much as Kris did.
I think you're referring to that fact. I did not want to do the deal. He did. Then things.
And nobody expected that. Everybody said,
no expected the other way
Frank's
around.
not going to want to do the deal. Kris will want to do the deal.
But we had a good board of directors in, and then they looked at the situation and said, this is the right approach at this right time. The multiples at that time, just for financial folks, were at least 2 turns of revenue higher than previously, and they came right down after in 23 timeframe. So it was right time in terms of markets. Timing has to work for you, so that in terms of market valuations, was absolutely the right time in that way, and hence the valuation. Even 6 months before we did the deal, if you said it was going to go for this amount of price, we would have never ever believed that. Just kind of confluence events that came together, multiples went up, and we're at the right time, and the Boston needed this technology, hence
But
the deal.
I want to add something there. This is actually the 5th time Kris and I sold a business. It's the 5th business. We sold our first one to Kimberly-Clark. They had a healthcare division. We sold our second one, consulting business, to Ernst & Young. Then we sold 2 businesses to Medtronic. First business, the second business. It's one of the biggest medical device companies in the world. And this one was our 5th sale. So we were used to going through the process. We didn't get worked up. And even at the end of it, the people buying us said, wow, you guys are like so calm. And there was no banging the tables or anything. We're just like, yeah, because I remember like the guy, I think it was Ernst & Young, he said to us when he was buying our businesses, you guys are pretty smart. We're smart too. You're not going to accept too little, and we're not going to overpay. And I always remember thinking, yeah, that's good. We can live with that. So we came at it in a very professional approach, and I think that helped us drive it at the right time to get the right business. And I would add this: we're very, very proud that every one of these businesses we sold has gone on to do much better. Every single one of them. And this business has already almost tripled in a couple of years. So we put in. They have salespeople all over the world. They can do much better than us. But we're proud that every one of our businesses has gone on to do even better.
Now, actually, I just have a very follow-up question. You said this was your 5th business. Does Kris get emotional every time you sold a business?
He was happy a couple of them to get rid of them.
So maybe that's the reason when you sold Baylis Medical, he was so emotional that your next business is Baylis Medical Technologies. So you didn't go far this time.
Go ahead, Kris.
Yeah, no, I don't get excited up or down. I just kind of, okay, what's the next thing as soon as something happens? So it just kind of annoys our team that we don't take time to celebrate as much. So just, okay, we did this, okay, what's next now? So just the way my mind operates.
So my biggest takeaway from here is, in this competitive idea where the technologies are evolving so fast, we constantly need to look that we are maybe our own competition.
100%.
And the moment you think there is the right window, take an exit and start with the next venture. That brings me to my last question, and I have a little story. I heard Michael Chase recently at TiECon Canada, and he was all about it's AI tsunami, and people who don't use AI, they're going to drown. I'm a lawyer. I just learning how to use technology, so I took some AI help to bring some of the questions. So I asked AI, what should be the last question for these guys? And AI came up with, how do you spend $1 billion? I was like, nah, doesn't sound like a great question. I said, search, scrape the internet. They're doing a lot of work. They're doing philanthropy. They are important things they're doing, philanthropy, sponsoring us, and the entrepreneurs coming through the MedTech stream, investing, and actually supporting the next generation of entrepreneurs. So my next question is, you have reached a stage, you have sold 5 businesses, what excites you now? What's next in the chapter in terms of next idea that is clicking with you? What in terms of next philanthropy ventures? And what's your plan of supporting the next generation of Canadian entrepreneurs so they don't have to go to Saudi and they can afford a house in Toronto?
There you go. Okay, so I'll tell you for myself what kind of excites me and what we're trying to do now. Like all throughout, what kind of excites me personally is kind of looking at some unmet medical need, thinking of a concept, then putting a team together to develop it, manufacture it, get approved through FDA, and commercialize it. So go through the entire cycle, which takes roughly 4 or 5 years to do. So that's what kind of excites me the most by far. So we started like Shah Family Foundation. Frank started Glory Baylis Foundation, and we're doing much philanthropy work on a number of areas. You know, I got my daughters involved in it, so I have 3 daughters. So female entrepreneurship is big for them, so we're doing projects along that line, projects in healthcare area. So those are the kind of endeavors, and also working with a lot of MedTech companies, whether it be investing or giving our time.
So we're building a business, but we're doing more than just building our own business now. We are spending a lot of time helping entrepreneurs. We love the work that you do at Ty, Shana, BJ, the whole team here. We're proud to be on stage with Susanna and John, pillars that have created great work in that. I'm always impressed at how mature, how strong these new entrepreneurs are, the ideas they're coming up with. I have absolutely 100% faith in Canadian business opportunities, entrepreneurship right here in our country. I'm often upset that I don't think our governments support the work as much as they should be, but we're pushing that all the time, and I think that we don't need to bet on anybody. We don't need to try and get any big company to come here. We can build everything right here, and I've seen it time and time again. John was talking about Spotify. Kris and I are small vision. We're not nothing like Spotify, but we're just an example of it, and I see it everywhere. So I'm really jazzed by that. That's something that gets me up every day to see that. And I'm, like I said, I congratulate the work that Ty's doing too, exactly along those lines.
Like I've been personally involved with Ty for a little over 15 years, and it's been gratifying.
I'll just say Kris is a charter member.
Yeah, learning from others, and it's a real honor to be able to come up speak to essentially my peers, mainly from India and so forth, as an entrepreneur. So it's a great honor to be able to speak to that. But I think more we can do to foster entrepreneurship, better we are as individual and better we are as a country. So work Upasana, Mahendra, and Vijay are doing is very audible, and we should support it to the fullest extent we can. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Kris, and thank you, Frank.